Thank you all for coming. My name is Mark Decena, and I first want to start off with the misnomer that I'm actually really rich, and I've done that with activist filmmaking. So if the three of you that rose your hands, you're in good shape. The others can jump on board and start to do some activist filmmaking. And when Brian approached me about the subject of straddling this world between activist filmmaking and brand filmmaking, I have to admit, I was not born an activist filmmaker. It was a journey. So I'm going to take you on a journey of my life and take you to a place where I am today. But I think it's an important part to realize that I wasn't born to do this. It's far from it, actually. And I want to admit that your watch is going off. I want to admit freely that I am kind of a mess. Last week I was at the NBC studios doing this program for Robert Honda's Asian Pacific America, and the show highlighted the Center for Asian American Media's program called Memories to Light. And Memories to Light is this program that invites Asian American families to send in their 8mm, 16mm films, and they digitize them for free and they put them online, they archive them. So it's if you're Asian American, and it can't be video, it has to be film. So they're looking for that moment in time when film, and it's actually, in my case, it was sitting in my mom's closet for 30 plus years. I hadn't seen any of it for a really long time. So it was a cool project. And let's see if I can turn the volume down on this. Yeah. So looking at all these home movies that I hadn't seen in a long time, I realized that there was a story inside of me, and it was about the conflict of my dad being Filipino and my mom being Japanese. It's kind of a rare mix, especially since they'd gotten together shortly after World War II, in which Japan terrorized a lot of countries, in Asia, the Philippines being one of them. It just didn't seem like it was going to be a match made in heaven, and it wasn't. My brothers are going to be pissed off because I've showed this clip of them kissing, and they didn't like it at the live presentation either. No, they were fine with it, but of course the match didn't work out, and they were divorced when I was 6, and I was raised by my mom, who brought us to Fremont, California. And raised 3 boys by herself. I still don't know how she actually did it. I'm amazed at that. And I mention all this because the title of that film presentation was called The War Inside. And it's about being the product of these 2 warring cultures, being a cultural stereotype of being Japanese, which is kind of driven and imperialistic and perfectionist, against the Filipino cultural stereotype, which is being laid back and loving karaoke. And those are 2 distinct things, which I was driven to find out who I was, and I used that program to kind of find that. So this theme of straddling 2 different worlds is something that keeps coming up for me, either by coincidence. When Brian brought this up, I was like, really? What? And the night of the live presentation, I sort of used that as a therapy session. My mom was there, my dad was there 6 seats away, my kids were there, my whole family, and it was a cathartic moment. I kind of came to peace with being Japanese and Filipino. I actually forgave my dad in front of the audience, and I'm bringing all this up because this is a live event. Anything can happen. I could come to peace with myself as being an activist and brand filmmaker, which I hope to. But you came to see some work, and I'm here to I'm going to talk about my personal life. Hope that's okay. So I'm going to start with a little background because I mentioned I was raised in Fremont, California. I'm a Bay Area boy. East Bay, yo? Anybody? East Bay? And currently I live in San Francisco, which is home of the Google bus controversy. Should I not be saying that here? But I went to school at San Jose State, so I'm a local boy, majored in graphic design, and I never really considered myself special. I mean, I liked myself, don't get me wrong, but I never thought I would be up here talking about my career and straddling these two worlds. So it's a little bit mind-blowing to do that. After I graduated from college, I moved to New York City, and I was looking for the big bright lights of advertising. Graphic design, I figured advertising was a way to go and use more skills besides just design. Advertising used writing, and led me to other things. So it was my first job was actually on Madison Avenue, and I was a madman. I'm kind of proud of that. I was an art director if you know about advertising, but there's the creative teams are the art director, and then there's the copywriter. I was an art director, and it was a great to get my first taste of the creative business. And what it really trained you to do was condense sometimes very complex marketing messages into digestible, entertaining bits of when that could either be a print ad or a billboard or television commercial. And back in my day, that was television commercials were shot on film, and we actually had a flatbed. And I remember doing the first commercial. It was amazing. Like the cut, I'm like, oh wow, he opened the door there, and he comes out in another place. That's amazing. It worked. But it was there that I got a sense of the line that we're going to be talking about tonight, this straddling this line. I was asked by one of my heroes in advertising, this guy, creative director named Mike Tesh, who is famous for the FedEx commercials, the fast-talking guy. I don't know if you guys remember that, but it was like the first super creative ads for FedEx. And I was working, in the studio one day, and he said, "Hey, can I talk to you?" He brought me in his office and said, "I need you to work on a cigarette account." And I said, "Oh," because you can think about it, but it's and here my dream job. I'm working in New York City at an agency, really creative agency, and I had to, overnight. I'm thinking, all right, I could lose my job if I don't do this, but I went in the next day and said, I can't do it. I love this agency, but I hate cigarettes. I made my mom quit smoking, whole deal. And he actually said, okay, fine, that's cool. I just, good to know that you had a line that, he didn't say that, but he just said he never brought it up again. So, but that was the experience of this idea of this line that I'm going to be talking about tonight, that we all have the line. We all have a line that we make choices every day about whether the lines we're going to cross. Obviously, I'm not talking about life or death. I'm going to kill somebody or not, but maybe. But for me, as I get older and more mature in this business, the line is becoming thicker and thicker, and it's harder to cross. But I'm okay with that, because I think this conflict and this struggle that we all have is good. I mean, it's what makes life what it is. And as storytellers, conflict is the root of all stories. I mean, if you don't have a problem and a solution or resolution, then you don't really have a story. So embracing this conflict is a good thing. So I spent about 7 years. Oh shoot! I was supposed to. This is the line, and it's not straight, which is a good analogy. A lot of times the line is going to undulate, and you're going to do some things that you're going to justify. So anyway, the cigarette thing was right about in the middle of the line, right there, the beginning of it, I guess. So I spent 7 years in New York, and I just did some award-winning work. I met the woman I would marry. I got married, decided that I wanted to live in the Bay Area as an adult. Transition wasn't easy. It never is. I think I always time my moves for recessions, so that's always good. But I ended up in agencies in San Francisco, and I started to realize there's more to life than just creating a good ad. Because advertising can be very narcissistic. I don't know if any of you work in advertising or work with people in advertising, but it's all about the ad. That's all it is. And I would go home, I'd work on a commercial, and you work really hard to get a commercial. As a creative, you go through all these briefs and you present and all this stuff, and you finally get on production, and you go to production, you go through post, and then you get home and you show the commercial to your family, and they're just talking all the way through it, and like, blah. And then it's over, and they say, "Oh, that was really nice, Mark," and then they just go off. And so there's no, it just was opening my eyes, like there's got to be something else. So I remember, hold on. Advertising to me is definitely coming from a place of me first. It's very, very me, creatively driven, narcissistic, and now I'm starting to work my way into the world of we first. That I just think that it's not because it's more satisfying, although it can be, but it's what the world needs right now. So that's what's driving me more. But more on that later. I am going to show some work, just so you know. So I worked in advertising, and I was very unhappy in a job. I won't say what that job was, but I felt kind of trapped. And I think, if you hate what you're doing, complaining makes you feel better, but doing something about it actually makes it better. So what I started to do, and I actually complained a lot. I mean, it felt good to complain. But I started taking classes at the Film Arts Foundation. It was an organization that's now swallowed up by the San Francisco Film Society. And I started taking classes just in production, and just, needed to put my creative outlet into other things. And also it just is a way, as I said earlier, filmmaking, as you guys all know, is an amalgam of all the things that we all love to do. We all love music and visuals and graphics and editorial and storytelling and writing. So it was a great outlet for me. And I remember a particularly bad day at work. I think I actually resigned, and I went home, and I got a call from the Sundance Film Festival, and I had a short film that I'd done in my spare time, and it got into the festival. It's like, yes, one door closes, another one opens. But luckily, my boss did not accept my resignation because you can't make a living off doing short films. I don't know if many of you probably have done short films, but you can't make a living off it. So what happened though is that the bug bit hard. So I was officially a filmmaker at that point. So I started doing more films. I got a second short film into Sundance with my writing partner Dan Ligon. And then I was asked I got a call from the Sundance Filmmaker Labs saying, "Do you have a feature script? Are you working on any?" I said, Of course I have a feature script. And the next day I, of course, started to work on one. And 2 or 3 years of writing and rewriting and writing and rewriting, we got accepted to the labs. And that was an amazing, amazing experience. And during this time, I'd started my own agency with a partner called Asylum. And we called it back then strategic and creative content, not advertising, because we saw advertising as content, anything as content, which you guys all create content, so you know where it can fit anywhere these days. So within that, we created the company Content Films, and that was out of fear of the Sundance Labs not calling us, out of fear of not getting this film made, we started the production company, and we premiered at Sundance with this film called Dopamine.
Are you all squishy inside, or is this just some pheromone thing that's kicking in?
Pheromones? are scents that are given off by the female that create that original attraction.
Of course, it's all chemical to start with, but true love is incredible.
But is it rooted in physiology rather than our hearts? I'm kind of attracted to her. It doesn't make any sense.
Why does it have to make sense?
You slept together?
It was before we were dating.
You're dating?
Sort of.
Sort of's a good description. I just thought we had something that night. I didn't think you'd end up...
You're the one who doesn't believe in that feeling thing. Why me, Rand? What makes me special?
As filmmakers, you know that picture is 90% sound.
Yeah.
It might be in the back room. Well, I'll keep going. So yeah, that film was at Sundance. It won the Alfred P. Sloan Award, and we got a 10-city release. It's on the Sundance Channel. I think it still is. Netflix picked it up, so it was great. And the one of the awakenings that I had from the film was that we were the closing night film at the San Francisco Film Festival, which was at the Castro, my hometown, and lines around the block, families there, friends, packed house, great standing ovation, big Q&A. And afterwards, a good friend of mine, this infectious disease epidemiologist, came up and said, "That was fabulous, Mark. Really, really good film. Now, are you ready to do a really important film?" And I was like, what? I was kind of offended. But 3 weeks later, we were on the AIDS wards in Uganda doing a film about generic antiretrovirals. So that was, an amazing awakening. Like, this me first film, love story. It's great. But then I think this film had more impact. It was called 5 Years to Life, and he raised about $1 million. And it was for generic antiretrovirals, which back then, you could, one person's salary was, actually the medication cost a month's salary. So people were going to take it, and he was trying to raise money for those people that actually were supporting 40 other families who couldn't afford it. So if that one person went, then the whole pyramid would collapse. So he was trying to raise money for that one person. So that was the beginning of my straddling between dramatic and wasn't brand filmmaking, but and doing some films for a purpose. And it was a pretty easy one to do, actually, because it was sort of a no-brainer to do it. But we still kept doing commercial work. And lots of it. But I think I was still involved in this me mindset. The whole Hollywood thing, we did pursue it for a while, and it actually blew apart the company. It was just a little bit of fame can do a lot of things to different people. But I think I realized that my DNA isn't in the Hollywood film career. I think I'm more Filipino than Japanese, and wanted to stay back in the Bay Area and sing karaoke. And having a production company in San Francisco is just more my speed. I think I like the connection to a more activist culture, which it is. About this time, we went into doing production full time. I shut down the agency. I was using it as a bridge to launch. I use it as a bridge to launch content as a full-time endeavor, but we still do lots of brand work. And it was during the second feature film that I did, which I did under a pseudonym. I was J.R. McCord. And it was a film for Red Bull, and they didn't want anyone to know who the filmmaker was. They were trying to launch this ruse for this. They wanted to introduce the world to this sport of professional stare down.
My name is Philip J. Rockhammer, and I'm here talking to you about stare down, professional stare down. It's the ultimate challenge of mind and body. You know, when you really get down to it, it requires, complete focus and concentration and endurance.
Oh, definitely, it's a sport. I think it's one of the more demanding sports out there, without a doubt.
Overcoming the other person with just your eyes.
If that's not a sport, I don't really know what is.
It is sweet! It is sweet, my friend!
It's all about challenging yourself. It's not about the money.
One. Stare.
Take a look around. It's a little weird, right? I don't know, it makes him happy. So, I go along with it.
I'm so nervous.
You know, a lot of people think that stare down is about zoning out or whatever, but when in reality, it's the complete opposite. You know, it's about focusing and concentrating and doing it over a sustained period of time that requires a lot of endurance, and, that is what stare down is about.
This is, of course, Tony Patterson. He's been unbeatable in the finals every time he's entered. Every final that we've had, he has won.
5 times in a row going for number 6. We're looking for some serious fireworks from him.
Nobody can handle a crankshaft, I'm telling you.
I wouldn't say life or death, but when you're up there, it feels like life or death. Like you're just like staring into somebody's eyes, it's awesome.
Flinch, you're done. That's it. It can happen like that. That, to me, is the greatest challenge that competitors can face.
So that was done in conjunction with an agency called AKQA. It was released online. It was accompanied by websites, competitor websites. There was a full NASP, the National Association of Stare Down Professionals, was up there. They even snuck in a Wikipedia entry until it was taken down pretty quickly. But Sports Illustrated and Wall Street Journal called it out as the best sports mockumentary of the year, and I got a lot of press. And of course, I couldn't talk about it. I actually had dyed my hair blonde and was J.R. McCord for a while, but after about a year, I could talk about it. And I still love that film, actually. I have a lot of DVDs if anybody wants any. But in the midst of this, kind of right in the middle of the film, I got a call from my former partner, Tad Fettig, and to get involved in this project that involved Autodesk and sustainable design. And of course, in your middle of a feature, you can't imagine taking anything else on. But he said, "This is the perfect project for you, and you have to do it." And he was right. It's called Design E².
Was it a conscious decision or a momentary lapse of reason? How did progress take priority over humankind? How could the desire for a modern way of life that threatens our future be considered a way of life? Could it be we are connected to all things in the universe, not the center of it? That suburbs in Los Angeles affect the melting ice caps of Antarctica. Deforestation in the Congo affects the typhoons of Japan. Now we must face the insurmountable challenges for what they really are. Opportunities to reinvent and redesign. E², the economies of being environmentally conscious.
What was happening across the landscape in the United States with sprawl, congestion, surrendering communities to the automobile was a wake-up call to us in Oregon.
A lot of chances were taken. You make these kind of investments, and these have been serious amounts of money invested in transit. Would or would we not see the kind of benefits?
Portland chose a future based on accessibility rather than mobility.
Yeah, that was Brad Pitt. So I ended up writing narration for 18 episodes, including a series on energy with narration by Morgan Freeman. The Portland episode you saw, is this going in and out, the mic? It's me, yeah. Check, check, check. Do you want to do something about that? Okay. So the Portland episode you saw, I also got the privilege of directing, and again, it was that perfect project for me because I grew up as a designer and graphic designer and an environmentalist. I grew up hiking all through California, and sustainable design was amazing to me to be able to work on. 250 million viewers opted in to watch it. It's on PBS and also online. So it's basically a 38 episode commercial for Autodesk. So Autodesk funded it because it was a definite fit for them. They provide the software for design, and they just hit it big with something that's so integral to what they do, and it's entertaining. It was a great series. I highly recommend it. It's a few years old, but it's all very pertinent information. The lesson I learned by this, and I still try to live it every day, is that you have more time than you think. You have more time than you think. And we all have crazy lives, but I don't know, if you really want to do something, and I live work balance, I'm a boss, I know you gotta have that, but you have more time than you think. So content is a collective of directors and writers. We started with a group of filmmakers that I all met from Sundance. Sam Green, who did The Weather Underground, Academy Award nominated documentary. He's actually at Pop-Up tonight. Pop-Up magazine, you guys heard about that? It's a live magazine performance. It's really good. I highly recommend seeing it. But other directors, John Dilley, Eric Escobar, David Monroe, and Terry Heyman is my executive producer. We work with, now we're sort of retooling it a little bit and working with a lot more people who are shredders, and just there's a lot more hyphenates in the business, as you guys know. But that's just part of the nature of the business these days. And I want to just show some of the work that we've done over the years. I have a couple montages, and then I'll talk a little bit about each one of those.
It's a huge factor in helping boost office productivity.
You got nothing.
Woo! This is my house, my little square house. Wow, now.
Excuse me, I'd like to tell you about a new service we're offering. All you have to do is tell me few things about your breasts, and I can find you the perfect bra.
Okay.
Okay? Okay. All right, let's get started.
Ah!
Gentlemen, come in.
Enough with trips and getaways, outings and excursions. If you're looking for a real, honest-to-goodness, wall-to-wall vacation with a capital V, we've got it in spades. Lake Tahoe South Shore. Get your vacation on.
Hot dang.
What's that for?
It's like a cup holder to me.
It's not a cup holder. I know everything in the world there is to know about computers, pretty much. But it's hard because everybody's always asking me how to do stuff.
What's the keystroke for select all?
Control A!
What if I want to select almost all?
What? Sorry, I can't hear you. Then yesterday, I was blog surfing, and thank gophers, I think I finally found the solution to my problems. So now whenever you don't know stuff or are in need of professional assistance, you can go there and leave me alone. Any questions? Yes, you in the back.
What's a Earl?
Thanks, PC.com.
My roommates and I have a hard time getting out of the house.
But that doesn't mean we don't like to party.
That's why we love Dance Dance Revolution and Karaoke Revolution. Isn't that right, Bubble Boy?
Stop calling me that.
Sorry, Bubble Man.
Dance Dance Revolution and Karaoke Revolution. If you've got a house, you've got a party. From Konami.
I love those. Yeah, so we do a variety of work. Obviously, that's narrative work, commercial work. There's some longer format stuff, but we love storytelling. David Monroe was a director on many of those, and I have some other work we're going to show later. But we also do earnest healthcare work. We do tech work, and this is a next montage is some of the healthcare work we've done.
The beating heart, the breathing lungs is the very essence of life.
Our goal was to change the way in which we fight cancer.
I was scared, and that's an understatement.
I was struggling just to breathe. That's when I went to see Dr. Reese.
Everything that we do is towards that singular goal of getting our patients back to the kind of life that they want to lead.
2 months after the surgery, he's back to normal.
We are pioneering care and developing new drugs to cure our patients.
We are currently one of the top programs in the country.
I've gone through almost 20 treatments for cancer, and because of that, I literally live today.
It's the first time I get to do a lot of stuff that normal kids can do.
There's hardly any line you have to straddle there. That's, it's work that's in line with a lot of things that we believe in. So, and then we do a lot of work for PlayStation as well. So I'm going to show that montage.
Shoot that fucker till it's gone.
And one!
PlayStation.
Steph Curry. I unfortunately wasn't on that shoot. And I do want to reiterate, I'm a founder of content. I do direct things, but I'm also just a producer, and we have a lot of other people, a team. As you guys know, it takes a team to create all this work. The one lesson I do want to impart from that last bit is that treat people, I'm going to wait till that mic comes back. Treat people right, especially your employees. Because you never know. Our biggest client, which is PlayStation, our client used to work for us. He was our third employee. So I know you guys clapped. It sounded like it was an altruistic thing, but you never know. You never know where people are going to end up. And it just, it is the Buddhist thing. Treat everybody like they're the Buddha, because you never know, they could be. Especially your enemies. Did someone hiss at that? So then the other side of our work is much more cause related, and as I said, it's sort of been a transformation for me. Like, again, a lot of the directors still do work that's, they have their line might be thinner than my line, but I'm pushing more into the cause related work. And I'm going to start this with just show a little montage of some of the work we do, and then I'm going to show a couple trailers of projects we've worked on.
The time is now. We're at a crossroads. We can continue on this like business as usual path, or we can create solutions for our future generations.
The future of humanity and the planet must be built on solidarity, on peoples around the world standing together on a common platform and pushing for the same solution.
We can start to reimagine our relationship to the whole living ecosystem. I think we might reroute our activities, not reroute rivers, not reroute waterways.
The new economy, post-growth, buen vivir, call it as you want, but we need something different.
By looking at how we live, we can find how we can live better, more interconnected lives. And maybe even be happier for it.
So we were approached by the Redford Center, and Watershed was one of the films you saw, but they wanted to create a positive film about water, and that's not an easy thing to do, especially, as you guys know, we're in the 4th year of a horrendous drought here. But the backdrop that they wanted us to focus on was the American Nile, the Nile of the Americas, which is the Colorado River Basin. 7 states, 2 Mexican states. It serves 30 million people, and it does not reach its delta. I don't know if you guys knew that, but it goes into Mexico, and they need it for agriculture, but it's a shame that it doesn't reach its delta. So they wanted to do this film. They definitely believe in film as activism to highlight people throughout the basin, and not just, so doing a positive film about water is the way to do it that we found was to find the characters who actually live in the basin and use the water across, from recreation to farming to cities. And so we traveled from the headwaters all the way down to the Gulf of Mexico on a 6-week trip, and this is the trailer.
When I was a kid, I used to hear this saying all the time. It goes, whiskey's for drinking, water's for fighting.
The Colorado River and the tributaries that make up her basin define the American West.
In Native American traditions, people consider this the heart of the universe.
Water in the West is our most valuable resource.
It's like 250 miles away where we get our water from. I mean, even the water commutes to LA, come on!
Water, which is so precious, doesn't come like it used to.
This whole notion of the American dream, there really isn't water conservation or any type of environmental anything.
With the Colorado River no longer reaching her delta and greater demand looming, perhaps it's time to embrace a new water ethic.
For me, I could say water is love.
One of the conditions is that we were going to do it differently, or we weren't going to do it at all. The way we considered our water consumption is to improve upon the resource that's delivered to us.
That's where we should be putting our attention, into our own natural landscape right here.
All your problems, they disappear when you're out here on the water. It renews you.
It's time that the river is famous not for the dams, but because the water is flowing all the way to the Gulf of California. That would be great.
The question remains, can restoring a mighty river's connection to the sea open new frontiers of conservation and cooperation?
There's beginning to be hope.
Yes, that was Robert Redford doing the VO. He was the exec producer, and his son Jamie was the producer. And the film, we were in over 50 film festivals, 500 community screenings. That was part of their strategy, is to get the film out there, let people, any group, you could just put in for it and say you want to do a community screening. They would send you a DVD or a digital copy and let you screen it. And they have almost raised the $10 million. They're on their last push right now. They're doing something on rally.org, but to get $10 million to buy water rights to connect, not to restore the Delta, which used to be a 10 million acre wetland, but just the river corridor. And they're doing that. It's very complicated. I could talk all night about water rights, but they're buying the water rights from farmers who no longer use the water because it's their land is too arid or too salty or whatever it is that they can't use it, but they still own the water rights, so they're releasing those water rights to connect the river. And they're almost there. They're almost there. Oh yeah, it's my favorite photo in the world. Yeah, this was the premiere screening at the Environmental Film Festival in DC, and as soon as it was over, Bob reached over and shook my hand. So. Yeah, and his son Jamie's right in the middle between us. So this next project I want to show is we were contacted by the Gates Foundation. Actually, David Monroe did the RFP and landed the project. And they approached him, and they wanted to pitch a unique way for people to absorb their issues. So Gates Foundation deals with childhood poverty, AIDS, and so David pitched the idea to look at global development issues through the lens of stand-up comedy.
We go camping for fun. I cannot explain that to my cousin in Pakistan. Let's camping. Oh, camping. Well, see, camping's this thing where you set up tents in the woods and mosquitoes bite you. Oh, you mean Pakistan? Yeah, it's like Pakistan.
Hassan Minhaj travels to India and South Africa for a television documentary about a new generation of comedians who have something serious to say.
White people don't think of going to jail. Jail is so far away. As a black man, you think of jail at least once a day. You wake up, breakfast, jail, okay, sure.
Do you feel there is some level of responsibility where you're like, man, I'm one of the first people to do it here in this country?
As a black person for black people, yes. It's hard to punish a kid in this space.
And they say, go to your room.
Like, go to your room, and the kid's like, yeah, but this is the room, where are we going?
Part of the magic of comedy is that you can force people who disagree with you or even hate you, you can force them to listen.
Witness a new comedy spring, where jokes can bring attention to some of the world's biggest issues.
We have 1,600 children dying every single day. 24% of our girls drop out of schools because schools don't have adequate toilets for them.
Wow. Where do you draw the line of how hard you're going to push?
The only way to get the idea of free speech across is by getting caught up, by going to jail.
I just want to tell jokes. I want to be in rooms where people laugh, and I want to tell truths.
What happens when people without a voice suddenly get a microphone?
What will save the world is the comics.
I'm at the Laugh Factory. So cool. You know, the last time the Americans put an Indian in a factory, we were sewing buttons on a shirt.
Stand Up Planet, the television documentary, followed by the comedy showcase on Pivot, KCET, and Link TV.
So obviously that aired on television. 4 million viewers in the US were reached alone. It's had some international distribution as well. And it was studied by American University's Center for Media and Social Impact, and they found that 80% of viewers were more likely to listen to those stories of global poverty afterwards. It's kind of a no-brainer, right? I mean, if you're emotionally connected in a story, you're going to be more apt to listen to its message. So, which takes me to my greatest straddle of all, because as I mentioned, this line is getting thicker and thicker, and this one I think is, I'm going to rip my pants if I stand down on either side of it. And it's our new film project called Not Without Us, and we're following 7 global activists to the climate talks, the UN climate talks in Paris, which are going to be in December. It's going to be cold in Paris, so don't think it's going to be this wonderful, wonderful trip. But it's also known as the COP21, which means that there have been 20 years of these meetings, the UN climate conferences for 20 years, and all of them have pretty much failed. And this year, they're expecting that all 192 nations are going to sign this agreement, but it's not going to be enough. They're saying we need to keep global temperatures to 3.6 degrees Fahrenheit, and the pledges that they're getting are going to rise, the temperatures could rise up to 6.3 degrees, which means that the world is going to cook. And the other thing is that the agreements are not legally binding. So anytime a country says, oh, we're in economic difficulty, let's fire up the coal-fired power plants, and we'll get to the commitments later. So, and as we know, I was talking with somebody earlier that 94%, or some are saying 97%, but most of the scientists agree that this system that we have has got to change. Otherwise and you know, the irony is, it's maybe not irony, but it's not going to be so bad for us in the global north, and who have created most of the carbon and response in our, it's the global south, sub-Saharan Africa, who are going to suffer the most. And they've had the least to do with it. So it's not only an environmental issue, it's a social justice issue that we need to get on and start doing. So, shocker, we have a crowdfunding campaign that we're starting right now. We're in production, but we're running this campaign. And this is a teaser for the campaign right here. And the voiceover is me, so. After 20 years of failed UN negotiations and graver climate-related occurrences striking the planet, it seems the time is ripe. In December of 2015, at the 21st United Nations Climate Change Conference in Paris, 192 nations are on the verge of signing a historic agreement that will either embrace all of humanity or be full of non-binding proclamations tailored to fit governments and multinational corporations dependent on a fossil fuel economy. A system that 94% of scientists agree is destroying the planet. Will we let governments who are dependent on multinational corporate wealth decide the fate of humanity? Not without us. Follow 7 grassroots activists and their coalitions as they awaken the true force that can prevent catastrophic climate change. The will of the people. Here's the commercial segment of the program. Hey, look, I got a donation right now. Look at that. Now, as you know, crowdfunding, it's not necessarily about the contribution. It's about spreading the word. So I really, really appreciate, as fellow filmmakers, to spread the word. If you just go on Indiegogo and look up Not Without Us, you'll find it. But I also have little flags I can give out that will give you the link. But yeah, it's an exciting project. Actually, I leave Monday for Miami and Bolivia, 2 of our characters, and we come back, and then November we go to Nigeria for Nemo Bassi, and then in Thanksgiving Day we go to Paris for the 2 weeks of the COP. So yeah, please support. or get involved, even more importantly. Do your thing. So, in closing, I just want to say that a couple things. One is that there is no wasted effort. As you can see from my life story and working in advertising, working in that field, distilling down messages, being able to find stories in whatever form they are, 30 seconds to feature, same arcs happen, was invaluable. And I've been able to support a family. I live in San Francisco, and everything I've done has been valuable. So, I mean, all of you guys look like you're pretty seasoned veterans, maybe a few, but you guys know that. It's just like everything you do helps. This I want to say is do your art for free, but commerce costs money. I don't know how many people I get hit up with, it's for the exposure, it's for the exposure. And I'm sorry, if you're a business and you're looking for a video, you should charge them for it. You've heard of the expression, an artist dies from exposure. And that's what happens. So hold the line. If a business wants you to do something for them, please charge them, for all of us. It's just we've had filmmakers come to us and like, how do you charge for your things? And we look at their reel, and they've done a lot of work for companies. And I said, well, what did you charge them? And it's like, oh, we did it for free. Like, well, they're not going to come. You can't charge them after that. So hold the line. And then I would encourage all of you to, if you haven't already, to discover your own line, not just for what you want to fight against, but for what you want to support. So it means, like for me, I am taking jobs, but I'm weighing them on, are they doing it for what I believe in and what I think is supporting what I believe is the right direction to go. And that doesn't have to be a straddle between activist and branded content. You can, just choose what companies you want to win. Like you can make that choice. It may not seem like you can, but you can. And you get to decide what kind of people you want to work for, what's going to be your legacy, so that maybe when you're presenting your work up here, you'll have that line that you straddle, and it'll be well defined, hopefully full of purpose and conviction.